Hey yo, what it div, y'all? Let's get right into it. So, today I want to talk to you guys about this new thing that I've been trying, and it's actually not the private league yet, right? At some point, I will talk about my experiences with the no magic prayer modifiers in the private league, but today I'm actually going to be talking about playing a build from no thought process. I have a couple things to like really lead us through that discussion, but it's just something that kind of happened to me haphazardly when I was too busy running Mythic Plus to actually sit down and PoB out the character I wanted to play. Because even though it is Power Siphon Mines, it's not the Trickster version; it's a Warden version, which means I actually had to make some changes from my typical knowledge of how the build functioned, just from a little bit of hearing about the build and whatnot. But I didn't feel like actually PoBing it, and I said, "What if I just rely on my base knowledge of how things work?" and just kind of play the game by feel. And that's what I've been doing. And it has worked out fantastically, actually. And that's what I want to talk about is more so the experience of doing that and why I think it actually proved to be better for me than had I gone into a PoB, because I feel like I've usually had more problems with a character than this before, through or a character of this type before, with a PoB in hand as opposed to no PoB in hand and just kind of freeballing it, right? And of course, a part of that is just the skill being really strong, but it definitely helps that I just have an idea of how this stuff works. Is everything entirely optimal? No. I imported the character this morning to look at the DPS and I was like, wow, that is bad. In case you're curious, by the way, 1.5-ish million DPS when I killed either Exarch, which is absurd overkill for that fight, considering you only really need about 450k to do it comfortably. Those kills were extremely fast, right? But before I hit my thing, I gotta ask you a question. How many times have you found yourself starting a build, having a problem, and not knowing how to fix it because the plan said that you're supposed to fix it XYZ way, but you're not actually there yet and you're running into this problem? Sit on that question for a little bit. Maybe even drop something in the comments about it. And, while you're at it, you should like and subscribe to, boost the video, get it out to people, because I think this is just a cool message for people to have. As I get, I'm going to talk about it, you'll hear it in full, but this is a good message for people to have. And, if you do subscribe to notifications, also, we're posting more here on the channel, especially other things related to this experience. Now, I asked that question, right? Because I feel like it was a common phenomenon for many people, including myself, even with my own builds, where I would run into a problem that my PoB solves, but my current character doesn't solve. And you look at the PoB and you go, well, I don't have the gear that I need for this yet, or I don't have the skill points for that yet. I'm not at Uber Lab yet to make that decision, right? And in not following any sort of a plan, I removed the preconceived ideas of how my character is supposed to function. Everything about my character's function was just what I felt I needed in the moment that contributed best to my goal at that very moment. And it might not be perfectly resource optimal, right? Like I doubt it's perfectly resource optimal, actually. The amount of respecs I've had to spend, well, gold really, into like retesting nodes and then realizing, oh my god, my accuracy is 88%. What? Or not being able to test little things. Like I was saying on stream a lot that I haven't done Uber Lab yet, and I don't see a reason to, because I can't think of a second tincture to put on yet. I hadn't really thought of it, besides the fact that like another pen suffix, or a pen suffix, or like a crit multi suffix, or damage on low life suffix would have all gone hard. But I couldn't think of like what base to use, and I finally got a rage tincture to test with, and the rage tincture doesn't work. So I was like, what do I do? And turns out the answer, according to PoB, is a blind tincture, because it allows me to pull back a tiny amount on my accuracy investment. And that's like actually the right option for me, because you can't stack double prismatic, for example. And Rose Thorn, the crit chance one, is only useful for me once I get Marilyn's. That much I knew, though. I knew I didn't need Marilyn's until I knew I didn't need a Rose Thorn until I got Marilyn's, because you could look at my sheet and immediately tell that I was giga overcapped on crit. It was like way too obvious that this character was overcapped on crit. And that's kind of the thing, is that the in game actually has just enough information for me to supplement how the game feels, right? For example, you think, oh man, my DPS isn't high enough. My DPS isn't high enough because I looked at the PoB and the numbers just weren't there. I don't know, man. I was slaying the fuck out all the time until like little things would happen that got me bothered, and then I would start dying and being able to kill things, and I have to think for a second, is it that my damage sucks, or is there something else about the situation that sucks? Great example. You open up a cooked ass essence. Is it that their damage's fault that you can't kill that essence? Or do you have enough damage to kill that essence, but it's killing you? And because it's killing you, you have to play the game in a way that fucks your DPS, right? These are the types of questions that you only really can answer in game. There aren't enough numbers in PoB to tell you the answer to that question. That's why I did this. It wasn't the intended reason I did this, but I'm making this video because I realize that that's such an important part of how my decision making has been going. You know, I'm not running a defensive aura right now. And per common wisdom, that is a sin, right? And like literally none. My reservations, I think the only defensive reservation I have is a vitality, which that vitality is all my life. So is it really a defensive reservation? It is, but like, is it really? You know what I mean? And the thing is it doesn't matter. My character has high range. High range plays with natural safety. I have high crit chance, actually capped crit chance when my charges are up. And I have Hoarfrost, which means against most targets, if not literally everything, they are going to get frozen at some point for 2 seconds. Multiple times over, because once they get frozen once, I can freely damage them for 2 seconds until they get frozen again and again and again. And that was the moment when I was like, okay, I think I'm cooking with gas here. I just realized that my defensive layer was going to be freeze and I should invest in killing things and just play around that knowledge. Now, of course, now that I know that blind is going to be so strong for me as a gear like fixer thing as well, I'm probably going to lean a lot heavier into getting some evasion on my character, because evasion and blind go really well together as well. So it all just creates a nice synergistic stat block. But that's the thing. I didn't really know how good blind was going to be for my character. It hadn't really come up. I thought about it a little bit, but I forgot that blind was no longer just a defensive stat. It was an offensive stat. But I knew that its defensive value was diminished for me because I didn't have evasion, because my chest is armor and DS, because I got a 5 link, and that's just what it is, right? Making decisions that solve problems in the moment, not decisions that that go according to plan. Right? My problem is I don't do enough damage. Fuck it. Go get a new wand. Go replace your glove with Doju Tenure. Go Uber Lab and get another tincture so you can get that done. Like, you're solving problems as they arise. You know, oh man, I don't even know when my accuracy is supposed to go out. Because you think about it, right? Like, you play a character and you know, for example, you only really need to take the accuracy notes once your accuracy starts to suck. We all know this. But that's the thing, right? You just keep going up and up the ladder without actually solving problems, and being able to just solve a problem as I go, not thinking out a plan, was actually really beneficial for me. And it prompts me with this full thought, which is that you get to play PoE in a way that turns it into a reactive problem solving game. That is RPGs at their best, quite frankly, is when you are reactively solving a problem. I think there's a lot of value in proactively solving problems for, say, competitive purposes, but it feels good when your character runs into a problem and you manage to figure out a solution. And I think a lot of our dependency on pre-planning ruins that for us. Again, it's hard. It was hard to really come to this realization myself without having done something like this in recent memory. Because it is like, even when I do make plans, I make my plans loose enough that I have room for adaptability. But it felt really freeing to just kind of like test things. And that's the other thing. If I were to try to actually plan this character, especially because it's a Warden, I hadn't played one yet, and there's not a ton of easily researchable things about this type of Warden. Like, I wouldn't have been able to know ahead of time that rage tinctures just don't work on the character, because, you know, like, in my intuition, I was like, well, I'm hitting with the mine is getting the hit, so the mine probably generates the rage, but the mine is gone. But you never really know, right? So I was like, I'll test it real quick before I really commit a decision to it one way or another, right? Or little stuff like, I didn't know how good the ignore 6 mana burn mastery was going to be, but that has been like instrumental in my ability to keep it up. because otherwise I don't think I'd ever actually get to the 12 stacks to get like the guaranteed uptime. I don't take the auto turn off on 12 simply because I can't afford the points on the tree to do it. But I do get at least to make sure that I do get to 12 for my linger to happen. And these are all just, again, problems that we solve in the moment. Like right now, I know in the moment, my problem is survivability. I have incredible damage. In a couple small upgrades from here, I'm going to be at 4 stone damage. And I just have to think about how to get my survivability up so that I can, do my guardian maps and whatnot safely, because I am definitely at risk of getting mauled by Chimera should he decide to flicker strike on top of me, for example, right? Like those are problems that I'm going to have to solve. And we're going to use PoB a little bit to help now that I've like looked and gotten through this initial part. But even then, like my gut tells me what's right. And that's going to lead into another video that I'm going to make down the line at some point. I talked in a previous video about working on a project for explaining the game at a core level such that it transfers over decently well into PoE 2. And a part of that is just going to be a discussion about like what the fundamentals of an ARPG are and how those display themselves in PoE 1 at the moment. And one of those, for example, is just damage and survivability. The passive tree does a lot of the lifting here for me, as well as a couple of my gem selections. And in that vein, I don't really need to know the exact percentage values of everything on my tree that I've taken to know that power charge node's good on Power Siphon, and to know that projectile and wand node's good on projectile wand skill, or that nodes that say life and life on them are good. Suppression nodes are good. Like you don't need to know the exact value of everything you've gotten as a result of that. And the character sheet is a pretty good resource for confirming the values that I am a little suspicious about. Also, the tooltip is mildly useful. That thing is still completely pointless when you start to think about like the value of pen on a character, but that's okay. It tries its best. We we work with what we were given here. Anyways, I just wanted to put this thought out there. The idea that you can definitely play the game to a high level without needing to sit in PoB, because I think the advice of we'll just get just copy a PoB and it'll all work out is too frequently given, and it takes away a lot of the potential learning and inspiration value of a character. As well as, this will be one notch in my eventual argument for why I don't think new players should be using PoBs as aggressively as they do when they start out in this game. That's a discussion for another time, though. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see what's going on in the private league, I do stream on Twitch. You can see it there. You can even join the private league either through Twitch or through the Discord. Both of those links are in the description down below. Again, like and share the video if you want people to actually hear this message, help boost this. And otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.